វីជានារីមកពីឋានសួគ៌ប្រប្រងក្រោមមេឃីក្រគ្នាចង់បានស្ដីតែពិសេសមានម្ចាស់ទៅហើយទេវីល្អគ្នាពីល្អណាស់លោកអើយស្ដាយអូនមានម្ចាស់ទៅហើយគ្មានសងខំឡើយជួបការក្រអូបតែក្នុងរបងទេវីបងជាធរណីអូនជាតារាទេវីកម្ពុជាការដែលរយទៅហើយអបការអើយនៅតែក្រអូបឋានសួគ៌ប្រប្រងក្រោមមេឃីក្រគ្នាចង់បានស្ដីតែពិសេសមានម្ចាស់ទៅហើយទេវីល្អគ្នាពីល្អណាស់លោកអើយស្ដាយអូនមានម្ចាស់ទៅហើយគ្មានសងខំឡើយជួបការក្រអូបតែក្នុងរបងទេវីបងជាធរណីអូនជាតារាទេវីកម្ពុជាការដែលរយទៅហើយអបការអើយនៅតែក្រអូបនៅពេលរៀមបានឃើញដួងច័ន្ទព្រីរៀមខំសំឡឹងគុណសពអង្គាចន្ទ្រាជាត្រួយជីវិតអោសំរងអើសំរងជាប់ចិត្តសំដីត្រជាក់ហាក់ទឹកអមរិនជួយប្រោះជីវិតបងជាតិនេះបងមិនដែលឃើញទេណានួនល្អស្នេហ៍បងនេះដល់ហើយស្រឡាញ់តែកលយ៉ាងថ្ងៃណានឹងបានជាកាយឲ្យបងបានស្បែកពីក្តីទុកខាថាវរីជាទីស្នេហាគុំដាច់មេត្តាណាអូនអើនៅពេលរៀមបានឃើញដួងច័ន្ទព្រីរៀមខំសំឡឹងគុណសព
Okay, all right. Hello everyone, welcome back to KOOMPI AMA. Today we have a special guest that we have announced lately that we will, from this week, Wednesday, we will talk only about the blockchain, and we are so I'm so grateful you are here today. Thank you, Darren. We have Darren on the show today. Let's get some information about him. Can you just introduce yourself to our user today?
Yeah, sure. So thank you for having me on the show. And yeah, my name is Darren. As you can see, I am a blockchain developer. I have been for a number of years, and we were just having a chat just earlier about like the journey I've taken. So because I've been involved with technology and software,
I see.
developing software and applications for about 20 years. So
Oh, wow.
since the year 2000 until now.
2 decades in Soviet.
2 decades.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 decades. So we're kind of talking about my journey from sort of Web 1.0, which is where I began my journey.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I was using computers in the 90s as well.
I see.
You know, like tinkering around with QBasic and BASIC and Pascal and this kind of stuff. But then, and I've moved into, you know, through Web 1.0, Web 2.0, and now here we are in what some call Web 3.0, you know, which
I
is
see.
sort of the blockchain plus artificial intelligence and IoT and all of that kind of revolution that's going on right now.
I see.
But yeah, I've 20 years of working in this industry. Still, I must say, you know, still got plenty to learn, and there's plenty of things changing all the time. That's why there's always things to learn. One of the reasons, you know, why I moved into blockchain actually is because it's appealing from the sense of learning. You know, there's certainly a lot of learning to do. So if you like learning, blockchain is a good thing to get into. But of course, another reason why I got into blockchain is really because of the very nature of it, which is of course what we're going to discuss today.
I see.
And on a sort of professional level, I've been working in Cambodia pretty much all of those 20 years. So I came here in 2001, and it's just been with startups like Yellow Pages, Cambodia Yellow Pages. We did a startup there. I've recently and still am involved with a startup called Click, which is a fintech payments application.
I see.
And I run my own vlog, I guess you can, or screencasting YouTube channel, where I talk about blockchain technology.
Yeah.
It's called Dev Bootstrap. Check that out. And and I'm also a consultant, right? I do software engineering consultancy for primarily for blockchain projects, but also full stack stuff, JavaScript mainly. But I also have been using Ruby and Rails as well.
Wow. So like Ruby and Rails and JavaScript, that is your like weaponized.
Correct. But more JavaScript nowadays.
I see.
I mean, Rails is great. I think it's a great platform. But you know, I got into Rails in 2008, and that back then JavaScript was not really a great option.
Yeah.
I mean, JavaScript was around, of course.
Not take over all the world yet.
But it hadn't taken over the world. It wasn't really mature enough. There was only frameworks like Backbone.js and stuff like that, and jQuery, which weren't enough for us to build a full-scale application that we were building at the time. And so Rails was the best option. And I stuck with Rails for many, many years. I still got some legacy projects that are still written in Rails that I still maintain.
Wow.
But generally new stuff, I'm using JavaScript and I'm using serverless. In fact, I just finished a project just now where I built the front end in Vue.js, and the entire back end is 8 Amazon Web Services. So Lambda,
I see Lambdas.
Yeah.
All the serverless.
All the serverless stuff, and I use a serverless framework.
I see. Wow,
So
that is pretty interesting.
Yeah, it makes it much easier to build apps because the front end is just a single page static application, right? And that just gets downloaded from Netlify, and so there's no hosting there.
Yeah.
And then the serverless stuff is serverless CLI, you know, the serverless framework.
I see.
And I just spin up whatever I need. So I'm using like Cognito for authentication, and I'm using DynamoD for the database.
I see.
API gateway for the endpoints, and Lambda for the logic and the functions. And also email services and a bunch of other things.
What is very sharp skill of like the 2 decades Soviet developer.
Well, I must say, actually, building applications is becoming easier, not just because of my years of experience, but just simply because the technology is so much better now.
I see.
I mean, I wouldn't want to go back to, say, running my own server, you know, and having the cleaner unplug it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got it.
So you know, so it's good. It's good that you know, I highly recommend using that kind of stack. I mean, I will use that stack as much as I can. If someone came to me now and said, "Please build me an app," I'm like, "Well, I'm going to build it in Vue.js and serverless."
Yeah. I was like playing around lately on the. Also, we deploy our front end application on the Netlify and also the Vercel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those service is very helpful because we don't have to care so much about the server. If we just only need a light front ends, then just throw it there, and the uptime currently is much more promising.
Yeah. I mean, it helps me sleep at night.
Oh yeah, peacefully.
That's the thing. That's the thing. I think that's the plus, is that I'm not worried about getting a message, you know, server down or this kind of thing when you're using Netlify and serverless. It's great, and it's a really good experience, a good development experience. I mean, very good. You can spin up a ton of different instances of the same environment. And you know, we have the standard dev staging and production, but the other day I wanted to just mess around with the back end, and I just spun up my own private environment. And it's just perfect. But anyway, we're here to talk about blockchain.
Once again, we will collect all the question from our user and we'll throw up to you later. But before we get into that, I just want to see from the point of view from you, because with 2 decades of the experience, but you were like in the 3 revolution of web technology, like from the web 1.0, 0.2, and now it's 0.3. Can you, like, because myself is only like when I coming up, it's already web 2.0. I have no idea what's the web the first web look like. It's only get back when there's the web 3 coming up, then now they try to, like, from the big picture, from the high level, you will see that there was some history that there's web first 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. How do you see, like, the technology change?
Well, firstly, like, if you want to experience Web 1.0, you can, because all you need to do is just essentially turn off most of your JavaScript and just have a very, very basic JavaScript. In fact, if you want to go like before 1995, you don't want JavaScript or images or anything. You just want HTTP and HTML. And that's it, right?
Wait, can I just interrupt you? Like, 1999, I don't even have to see the web. Like, just the computer, I have no idea how the computer look like. Right. So the original sort of like pre-JavaScript and web was, like I say, just text documents that were just shared around usually sort of research institutions like universities to share research papers and this kind of stuff. And libraries were the first sort of to use this kind of technology. And then of course JavaScript and Netscape, you know, were introduced around 1995, and but this was basic stuff still. Obviously, it was just still Web 1.0, so it was just to do sort of basic animations or sort of effects on the page. And then people started to get a little bit clever and started to do background loading of information, and then images, of course, started to appear, CSS, and then I don't think there's an exact date, but it's probably one of the landmark Web 2.0 apps would have been Gmail, you know. Google's Gmail, and there may be others, you know, before that, but it was really when you started to see applications that were fully on the client side in the browser that looked like desktop applications, that had all the functionality of desktop apps that just loaded once, and when you clicked around, the whole page, it wasn't a full request response, full refresh, full load of all the HTML. It was just whatever elements needed to be refreshed were refreshed, and that's essentially Web 2.0, right? I see.
And then Web 3.0 is of course decentralized computing, and particularly backed by the blockchain. So the ability to build things like DApps, distributed applications.
So so when we talked about the Web 3, is this only referred to because there's a blockchain technology? Can it goes without blockchain technology, or
Web
because
3,
it's
I think that I actually don't know the actual definition, you know, in Wikipedia of Web 3, but the way I would sum it up is really all the things that are happening right now that are quite revolutionary, and blockchain, of course, is one of them. But if you combine blockchain with the massive, rapid pace advancements of AI and Internet of Things and big data, and 5G, those five things combined really make up this story of the latest revolution in technology, which you could sort of combine as being Web3, because Internet of Things allows you to monitor everything.
Yep.
The data goes into artificial intelligence, which allows you to predict things. The blockchain makes things permissionless and trustless and decentralized,
Yep.
and unstoppable, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got 5G, which enables the last mile, collection of that data and interaction between everyone.
Yeah.
So this is I think all of those parts make up Web3, in my opinion. Right?
I see.
Yeah.
I see. So, in your opinion, one more, in short, when I give you to general people who watching this show, what is blockchain?
Blockchain is a database, and you can see I haven't prepared my elevator pitch. No, but I would say blockchain is a database at its core, but it's not like a transactional, transaction processing database that we're used to, like a relational database engine, like say MySQL or Postgres.
Yeah.
It's very different from that in the sense that it basically, when you want to add data to the blockchain, it will append that data from a set of blocks that have already been added. So it's an append-only database.
Yeah.
Is one characteristic of it.
I see.
And the way to think of that is think of it like a ledger, a ledger or an event log.
I see.
Right? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's just logging events.
Yeah.
And those events are essentially transactions. And by the way, I'm speaking from an Ethereum background.
I see.
So maybe other protocols are slightly different, but this is how I see it from Ethereum.
Yeah.
And so these blocks, each block contains a number of different transactions, and those transactions change the state of the blockchain, or of the data within the blockchain, I should say. So it's manipulating state, but you can only go forward in the blockchain.
I see.
You can only add things to the blockchain, and that's one of the sort of immutability properties of the blockchain, is that it is immutable. You cannot change past data.
Yeah.
And just to be a little bit technical, the way that works is through hashing. So and this is where the word chain comes in, because each block is hashed. So you get a shard 256 usually, a shard 256 hash of all the data in the block. And I'm not going to go into what a shard 256 is, or you can look that up. Basically, it's like a fingerprint.
Yeah.
And the amazing thing about this shard is that if you change just one character in the block, anywhere in the block, it will result in a completely different hash.
Yeah.
Which will therefore break the chain. And if the chain is broken, the blockchain is not valid.
I see.
You see, so that makes it immutable.
I see.
Yeah. So just to repeat, it's a bunch of blocks, append only, cannot change it, mutable, and the other thing is it's distributed, meaning that there's not one instance of the blockchain. So if you add, let's say you want to let's say you want to buy some Ethereum. In order to buy Ethereum, you need to perform a transaction on the Ethereum blockchain.
Yep.
And you do that. In doing so, it proves that you have now bought some Ethereum, against your wallet address. Now, when you do that, you're making a request to a node, which then honors that transaction for you by mining, and we can dig into mining if you like as well. But and then those nodes are connected to other nodes, so and it just synchronizes to many different nodes.
Yep.
I think it's in the hundreds, maybe, or around that. If you go to Etherscan, you can see it. With ETHStats, I think it is. There's a nice map there of where all the nodes are. But the point is that the data is replicated across many different nodes. So,
Yeah, yeah.
So it would need a global power outage. You know, like the whole world would have a power cut to stop the blockchain. You know, so it's unstoppable. So I hope that was a fair enough definition. I mean, it's one of those technologies which, when you first read about it or hear someone try to explain what it is, you're like, what? I didn't really catch that, or I didn't really get that. So it's worth reading about it and getting maybe a better definition than what I just gave. But that's essentially my take.
So there is a question like, you are on like so many field already, like so long experience. Why? What a special thing? Why blockchain really catch your attention and you switching your skill into it?
Right. The first word that just popped in my mind really was a bit like boredom, if you know what I mean. Like I kind of got bored with making
I see.
apps, Web 2.0 apps.
Yeah.
You know, kind of got bored with it, and I wanted to. And of course, you know, I'm hearing about the blockchain, and I'm hearing about AI and machine learning. Those two particularly caught my attention: AI and blockchain. And I was actually at a crossroads at one point where I was like, okay, I'm going to go down the AI path, or I'm going to go down the blockchain path. I chose blockchain, and the reason for that was for making that decision was because for me at least, it's easier for me to get started and up and running with blockchain than it is with AI and machine learning, just because of my background. I'm more familiar with databases, I'm more familiar with understanding different protocols and that kind of thing, whereas machine learning was about data science and statistics and maths and all this, which I'm okay at, but it would have taken me a lot longer to go down that path. And so but why did I change anyway? Just because I wanted something new, something challenging, you know, because I felt like I was very comfortable with building Web 2.0 apps, and I wanted to move to Web 3.0.
I see. I see. So now let's get back to our question from our user. So from Silkek, she was asking like, what can blockchain help in the macroeconomy?
What can it help in the microeconomy?
This is not really technical question.
No, but it's a good question, and it's one of those questions that come up which is related to, well, what can you use the blockchain
how many
for?
industry, what kind of industry field that we can apply the blockchain into it or something like that.
Well, this is so to start off with, this is one of the amazing things about the blockchain, is that you can apply it to any industry, and this is what makes me kind of have comparisons with the beginning of the web, right? Because at the beginning of the web, like back in the early 90s, people were saying the same thing. Oh, this is amazing technology. We can use this for anything. We can use it for e-commerce. We can use it for distributing health information. We can use it for trade or for gaming, or for sharing information and sharing experiences and so on and so on. And here we are now again at a revolution with the internet and with web in general, and we are at the cusp of being able to now use blockchain for all those things. So I guess the question is, well, what's different then? You know, if we can use, if we already have e-commerce platforms, and we already have platforms for sharing our social experiences or trading and this kind of thing, why blockchain? And it's because of the characteristics of blockchain. It's and the main one, I think the big one, especially for trading, like as in currency trading and value exchange, is the trustless and permissionless nature of the blockchain. The fact that the ledger proves without a doubt that if I bought 1 ether and I gave you half an ether, and by the way, that's $150, no, $175. Half an ether, or something like that. Anyway, but if I gave you half an ether, and then you turn around to me and say I didn't receive it, or I didn't get that, or you never paid me, I can just point to the blockchain ledger and say, yes, I did. You can see, or at least you can see I made a transaction to some address.
Yes.
And that's the address you gave me, maybe. But the point is that there's no, like, without the blockchain, that kind of ledger would have to be managed by a third party, by an intermediary.
Yeah, intermediary.
Somebody sitting in between us who would be going, like an accountant or a bank, right? And they would be going, yes, okay, Darren, you want to give half an ether to your friend. Okay, I make a ledger, and then maybe that ledger is either kept private and only you and I can ask about it, or maybe he can share it between you and I, but it's not public and it's not, and we're relying on this guy in the middle.
There's a party, the middle.
To be trustworthy.
Yeah.
I'm relying, and of course with half an ether we're not talking about much, but let's say we're talking about millions or billions of dollars. That's pretty serious, right?
Yeah.
If you want to manipulate this guy in the middle, and it's worth his while, to be dishonest and cheat me out of some of my money, then that's a risk. Whereas, of course, blockchain removes that risk to some extent, because there's still, and I don't want to get too deep into this, but there's still the risk of minor manipulation, but it's vastly removed.
I see.
Because of the model of the distributed nature of it, and because of the mining process.
I see.
So okay, so where can it be used in the economy? Definitely commerce and trade. I mean, that's the first for me. And by the way, I'm really deeply into DeFi, decentralized finance. So that's where I'm using the blockchain and working with the blockchain the most.
I see.
But of course, I've actually worked on a project where a guy or a client of mine wanted to put his artwork collection onto the blockchain, right? And you might be thinking, well, how do you do that? Art is a physical thing, paintings and stuff. How can you quote unquote put that on the blockchain?
Yeah.
And of course, it's with basically using ERC21 tokens, 721 tokens, or
the
non-fungible tokens. Yeah, you just basically create these types of tokens, and then you say, well, this token represents this painting, and then the transactions can happen on the blockchain, and of course the physical painting is now proven to be owned by whoever owns that token.
I see. Yeah.
See what I mean? And that's how you do that kind of thing. And so this is another thing that people are doing is collectibles, with paintings, with wine, you name it. It's incredible.
There's a question like, what are the differences between real world asset and blockchains?
Right.
That was like
that
the
was
last.
That was sort of an example. I mean, but like a very sort of concrete example, if you like, would be real world assets like owning a house or land and owning an ERC20 token, right? Any token, like for example, DAI coin, right? Or DAI coin or Unicoin or whatever
it is.
Yeah, whatever of the thousands of coins there are. The difference is that the coin, let's say DAI, is literally a digital product. You cannot hold it. Or Bitcoin. Let's use Bitcoin as a good example, because Bitcoin has actually been around obviously for the longest, and Bitcoin literally is proof of ownership. Okay. So there are some gimmicky sites where you can go and print a Bitcoin and you can get it sent in the post, and it's actually worth something.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what it has in there is the private key.
Yeah.
That proves that you own that. That Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Right? So if I wanted to, if I said, "Oh, print me a 1 Bitcoin coin," and or of course the value is going to change, but it will have the private key imprinted and embedded in it or something, and so really, the difference is land and things that you can touch, assets like that are physical assets. They're worth something. Land is worth something. It goes up in value. If you want to exchange land, traditionally at least, you would go through a third party, and but that's moving to the blockchain as well.
Yeah.
But pure blockchain assets. The most common one would be, of course, crypto coins and cryptocurrency, and they are literally just with for example with Bitcoin, it is a series of transactions where there is a transaction in and a transaction out, and then at the end you have a balance that is associated with a private key, essentially a private key.
Yeah.
And it's proof. It's just proof of ownership via the private key. That's it, really. Yeah.
Okay. There's a question like, is blockchain legal?
Yeah, it's not illegal.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with blockchain.
Yes.
It's again, it's what you do with it, right?
Yeah.
So, like the web is not illegal, but there's many illegal things happening on the web.
Yes.
Right.
Correct.
So yeah.
So can someone who does not have any knowledge about finance learn blockchains?
Absolutely, yes, because there's many learning resources online, and my recommendation for learning is first of all YouTube, and then if you've got a little bit of money, like $10 or something, go to Udemy and go to one of those courses on Udemy. They're more in depth.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course you can.
So Monica asked you that how do you see the blockchain transform in the future? Where will the blockchain go?
Well, okay, so I think I see the blockchain being many different blockchains, right, as we were talking about earlier, before the cameras started rolling. So there's going to be not just one blockchain, or however many there are now, maybe hundreds. I'm not sure how many there are now, but there'll literally be thousands, and I think the sky's the limit. For example, just to come back quickly to tokens, right?
Yep.
When we started seeing tokens, ICOs and this kind of stuff, like 2017, I think it was, the big bubble or something.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, okay, another token, and then it died down. But now what's happening is people are making their own personal tokens. So literally, it's like, oh, how many tokens will there be? Well, how about a token for every single man and woman on the planet? So there's going to be a Darren token.
Yeah.
There's going to be a KOOMPI token. Well, there is actually.
Maybe, yeah.
But you get what I mean. Like, there's going to be a token for everything. And I think that maybe the blockchain won't go that far, but there will be a blockchain for almost every company, right? And maybe even a blockchain for every family or household or small business or whatever, right? I think that people are going to want to have their own blockchains. Now, it's if you go into sort of like consortiums, like a consortium level, or Chamber of Commerce or something like that. If you look at, say, the Eurocham in Cambodia or the BritCham or AmCham, they have many members.
Yep.
And so they might have a blockchain, right? They may have an AmCham blockchain, but it's just for their members, maybe to prove that each member has paid their fees, right?
Yeah,
and
the valid members, something
and,
like that.
And they may want to have their own private blockchain just for the AmCham membership.
I see.
For that very purpose, and it's cheaper than doing that kind of thing on the Ethereum mainnet, because it's very expensive now to make transactions on the mainnet.
Yep.
And maybe you don't want that to be fully publicly available, but you want it to be privately available amongst a consortium. So where blockchain is heading that's one thing. It's going to just be many different blockchains.
Yep.
I think though that the underlying idea of blockchain, which is the traits of blockchain that I explained earlier about how blockchain works, is pretty fundamentally not going to change. It's a bit like HTTP protocol. Hasn't changed for 30 years or however long it's been around. Forgive me, but that protocol literally has not changed. Right? It's HTTP 1.1, and it's here to stay because it's the underlying foundation of everything on the web. So even blockchain uses HTTP. Yeah. But I think that the model of blockchain is not going to change. It's just the use cases of blockchain and the different protocols that sit on top of it will be very wide and vast. Yeah.
Actually, I got a question in my head, but it's out of the technical question. Well, to answer this question, and we will get back to the technical thing.
Yeah.
What was the first time you do the transaction on the cryptocurrency and for what it is.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, that was so the first time was probably like a lot of people, although maybe changing now. But for me, it was Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And it was a client actually who I'm working for, a client in Canada, and they just said, yeah, can I pay you in Bitcoin? And it wasn't for very much,
Yeah.
right? Because usually I'm like, oh, please pay me in US dollars because my school fees have to be paid in US dollars, or Khmer Real. But most international clients can pay in dollars, not Khmer Real, obviously. But he, I thought, yeah, why not? So then I'm like, okay, download wallet,
I see.
Because that's the first thing. Is like, how do I receive this? I mean, but at the time, I was already aware of Bitcoin and looked into it and stuff.
I see.
But at that point, it forced me to make a decision on which wallet to use, right? Because this is always the first decision of receiving any Bitcoin, because you've got to receive it, right?
Yeah.
Actually, I'll be honest. I'll just go back a little bit. I was trying to buy Bitcoin, and I have to say that being in Cambodia, that I found that very difficult. And it's not just because of Cambodia, but it's just that the Visa cards I have here, nothing accepted. I just could not buy Bitcoin. So when somebody said, "Let me pay you in Bitcoin," I'm like, well, at least I can.
Wow.
At least I can get Bitcoin that way.
Yeah.
So I received Bitcoin. I used the Exodus wallet, by the way, which I installed on my desktop and on my phone. I like that wallet because it's got a very nice user interface and it accepts many different types of currencies.
Yeah.
And you can actually exchange within the wallet itself, from Bitcoin to Ethereum and all this kind of stuff. So then once I had Bitcoin, then I was like, what should I do with that now? And at first I was interested in trading. So just going to exchanges like Poloniex or Binance or one of those trading platforms, and just transferring my Bitcoin from my wallet to the trading platform, and then placing trades. Just like normal currency pair trading or something. Because I tried that before. Actually, I was doing some currency pair trading in 2007. So before
I see.
Before Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I was doing pound dollar. Trading just for fun.
Yeah, that was forex trading.
Yeah, forex. Wow. Yeah. So that's what I thought I would do. But then I decided actually can generally be easier to make some profit by going into DeFi. Actually, so I converted my Bitcoin to Ethereum, and then I staked some of my Ethereum in different pools like Uniswap.
I see.
And others. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So
when was that? Like the first transaction on that?
When did I make my first transaction?
Yeah.
On the blockchain? It was early at the beginning of this year.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah, sort of January, February time.
Yeah.
Mm.
But you were exploring on the technology, like you were like explore on the technology before that. Before you received the first transaction on it, right?
Yeah. So I was working in blockchain since 2018. So for the last 2 years, essentially, last 2 and a bit years actually, on and off though, not like full time, because I was involved with another startup which wasn't blockchain based. So this hasn't been my full time job.
I see.
But in 2018, I was working on a project with Paxful, which is it's an exchange for Bitcoin. And I was working with them on building some APIs for doing international remittance, but using blockchain as the underlying transfer mechanism. Right. And so that project, that was before I even owned Bitcoin. I never even had transacted in Bitcoin when I worked on that project.
I see.
Yeah. But that was my first sort of actual work with blockchain. It was all with crypto. I had taken a few courses before that as well. That's kind of got my appetite sort of up for looking at work in that space, and that was probably how I ended up working on that project. And then I helped someone also with a Telegram coin. You know, the
Ton?
the gram. Yeah.
Oh, the gram. That was before the free ton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when it was all hyped up and everything, and before the US put a stop
Yes,
to it,
yes.
yeah, I was working on that on a project with some people.
Oh, that is amazing.
Putting that together, yeah, and interestingly, you know, we forked the Ton blockchain project and made some changes to it, and we built a front end in Vue.js with WASM as well, you know, WebAssembly modules for use of basically our smart contracts, right? And so we were building a lottery product, but a whole bunch of other things, but one of them was a lottery, just as a sort of proof of concept.
Yeah.
And then that project came to an end, I think because investors maybe got a bit spooked because of what happened with the Fed and with the gram coin at the time.
Yeah.
And so they put a halt to that. And and then here I am now working on Uniswap mostly, right? Working with Uniswap, and I've been working with other DeFi projects this year.
So is it you're working for working on the Uniswap, or you're working with Uniswap?
Yeah, I'm working with Uniswap, as in I'm working for a client who wants some smart contracts built on top of Uniswap. So I'm not part of the Uniswap team.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because like from my understanding, it's only like the decentralized exchange only on the Uniswap. From my understanding, so it's much more beyond the exchange. So you can build something and put into it like smart contract.
Exactly. I mean, Uniswap is decentralized and permissionless, so
non-custodian
anyone can build anything on top of it. So for example, you know, if you're a non-technical user of Uniswap and you've got some Ethereum, you would probably use that to add liquidity to one of their liquidity pools, right? And then you make some money from doing that. Right?
Yeah.
You get some fees from doing that. And but if you're a developer or a trader who's got technical skills or hires developers, then you can build things on top of that automate some of this process. You know, that maybe automate the trading, buying and or selling process on Uniswap. You can even fork Uniswap, which is somebody recently they called it Sushi Swap.
Sushi Swap. Yeah, I heard about it.
Yeah, so somebody apparently took 1 week to do this, which again, you know, wouldn't surprise me because they just literally forked it.
Yeah.
In GitHub, created Sushi Swap, created a new logo, branded it differently, but you reused all the smart contracts of Uniswap. I'm not entirely sure of what changes they made, but what they did was, which was very clever, is they basically issued their own token, the Sushi token, and invited or lured over liquidity providers from Uniswap into Sushi Swap. And this guy made $14 million.
By just one pick of after forking from Uniswap.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So I wish I did that in my week. But there's so many stories like that in DeFi of people just doing crazy trades or doing, you know, using flash loans, which I'm not sure, you know, like if you know about that, or yield farming, all of these things.
Oh yeah, yield farming is pretty interesting.
Yeah. And people are making like a lot of money in a very short space of time, applying these techniques, and from what I can see, most of these techniques require software developers, you know, which is why it's good to get into the blockchain right now, because that's how you can make the most leverage actually of these kind of platforms, of the decentralized finances, is with some coding skills.
Let's see.
Yeah.
So we are running at the. Yeah, I think we still have around 20 minutes. 10 to 20 minutes more. Yes. I want to talk about another partial project, your own project on the how to call that, the dev strap, the full your personal, your own channel and the blog. That what did you do there? Like
So I have a few personal projects, but one of them that I'm most passionate about and spending most of my spare time on is Dev Bootstrap,
Yep.
which is basically a training center for full stack blockchain developers.
I see.
And the cool thing about making it full stack is that I can have courses on there for, say, Vue.js, and it's not out of place because I've written Ethereum dApps that use Vue.js,
Yep.
and then plus Web3.js, of course, to connect to
Yep.
the blockchain, or Drizzle if you want to use that as well. But basically, so the idea is basically to to provide a set of courses, and I'm just starting out on this. So at the moment, I've only got a YouTube channel, but my ambition, my goal is eventually to have a whole suite of different courses on maybe on Udemy or somewhere else, Patreon or something.
I see.
Or Teachable, I think it's called, where I have a sort of end-to-end course on how to become a blockchain developer from various different levels. So if you're just starting out, then we go through the whole set of pillars to go through. So learning web technology, so websites and JavaScript,
I see.
and
Yeah.
then databases, and then
Yeah.
going to the blockchain technology side of things, and then going to the decentralized finance side of things,
Yeah.
if that's what you want to get into. And you can take any part of the course, right? If you just want to be a web developer, but maybe work on blockchain
Yeah.
projects, but not
Yeah.
do the blockchain part, just take the web developer part, right?
Yeah.
If you're already a web developer and you want to move into blockchain, just take the blockchain part, and if you want to go into DeFi, take the DeFi part. So there's
Yeah.
these different parts that you can take. But this is
It's
not
like a long
yet
journey
ready yet.
for
Yeah,
a
and it's a long
developer.
journey.
Yeah.
So right now, what's available right now is my YouTube channel. It's Dev Bootstrap. I've got about 20 or so, 20, 30 videos there teaching different things about, mostly about blockchain,
Yeah.
mostly about Ethereum. I've got stuff on there about how to test smart contracts, how to write smart contracts efficiently, how to integrate a web app with the blockchain, how to deploy guest node, and a variety of different things which
Yeah,
I just shared. It's all free.
More in general, is like you will be the place to learn about full stack blockchain is there.
Yeah.
So that's why we get attention to me, like, because I am not a full stack guys. I love low level language because I come from the C++, and then I got into Clojure when everyone were excited about the JavaScript and Ruby, all those stuff. I was studying the Clojure. And now I switched myself and my team. We are learning and write something in Rust. Yeah. So that's why when you say it's a full stack, so what kind of how many technology stack inside of it?
Oh right.
And how to get started into it?
Yeah, so when I say full stack, I'm referring to like from the client to the server and everything in between. So the way I see sort of end to end with an application is from the web application, so from the UI to the data going to where it needs to go to, so wherever that may be. Usually it's of course a database.
Yeah.
And so you start off with front end, so that would be, okay, in my opinion, Vue.js or React.js, and or if you want to go into mobile, then maybe React Native. But these days, I think like a Vue.js progressive web app is enough, for most cases, right? And then and so there you're needing to learn things like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and the frameworks that go with it. Including the package management like npm and all of those things, Webpack, Babel, and everything. The other thing that you probably that is useful, of course, is command line skills, so CLI or terminal skills, how to use things like tmux or how to use SSH, and all of those kind of things. And then for the server side, you need to know about how to spin up servers, say on DigitalOcean or on Amazon.
Yeah.
how to SSH into them, how to use Linux as well, because maybe many people might be using a Mac or Windows, but you also must know how to use Linux. You must be comfortable with Ubuntu or something like that, Ubuntu server. So that would be something else to definitely dive into. And then, of course, databases. I think it's very important to understand about how databases work and how to design decent schemas for relational databases. That's your traditional relational database management system, where you have tables with primary keys and foreign keys. But you should also know about how to build good NoSQL databases, document databases like Mongo, like DynamoDB. It's also good to know about how to use tools like Elasticsearch. That might be good for building up monitoring tools or search engines. And then of course all the suite of tools with Amazon or other. I'd be teaching only Amazon, so there will be a little bit of bias in there. Maybe someone will come along and say, "Well, I use Azure." Well, okay, sorry, I use Amazon, right? So I can't teach everything, but Amazon serverless is definitely going to be something that I'll be teaching, because if you're building an app and you want to make your app as easy to maintain as possible, then I would go serverless, right? Which is basically using the serverless framework, which then in the back end uses all the serverless tools that Amazon provides, such as Lambda, S3 for CDN storage, DynamoDB, API gateway, Amazon SES for sending emails and so on and so forth. And then you can store your Vue.js or React.js app in a CDN or use Netlify or something like that. So you basically have this full app that works without really worrying about too much DevOps and too much server management tasks and chores. Which in my opinion, it kind of distracts from the development work, right? You want to just get the product done rather than worry about that. And then of course the blockchain, right? So if you wanted to make that a DApp where you had some parts of it interfacing with the blockchain for whatever reason, maybe you're building an exchange, then or a trading platform, let's say, then I would use Vue.js and use serverless, and then for fetching data from the blockchain, you can either connect directly to the blockchain, or you can use some of the services that are available now, such as Infura, and there's another one that's just been released. I forget the name of it, but there's also another one which is useful for analytics called Dune Analytics, which basically is a service that sits in front of the blockchain. Okay, it's a centralized service, but they feed data from the blockchain, store it in a Postgres database, and then it's in front of a GraphQL API. It just makes things, anything that makes things easier, you may as well use them. But of course, if you want to transact on the blockchain, you need to connect to the blockchain somehow through a node. So all of that.
This is like very detailed on how developer can go through like the way how you can become the roadway, like the roadmap how to become or where to begin into the blockchain stuff. Let's talk about what if the guys from like non-technical guy and they don't want to be a developer too, just to connect themselves to transact and like to one of the adoption on into the blockchain. From your idea, what do they begin? Like how do they begin?
Okay. So let's say for example, you as a user of the internet, someone sends you a link and you click on that link and it happens to be a DApp. It's a decentralized app, right? And you are not a developer and you've never used a DApp before, right? The first thing that's going to happen is it's going to ask you to connect to that app using something like MetaMask or something like that. It's going to ask you to essentially connect the app with your Ethereum account, and I'm talking only Ethereum here.
Yes.
So now most people are going to be really put off by that, and I agree. The user experience at the moment for DApps is a little bit intimidating. Let's face it. But if you really are desperate to, really want to use this DApp, then what you need to do is you must create an Ethereum account.
I see.
Right, or you must have an Ethereum address.
And
of course, to do that, you really must do that, especially if you're going to put money on that address. You must do that in a very secure way. So again, not very nice, not very intuitive, but If you're willing to follow that and create a really good, secure, randomly generated private key for your Ethereum address, then you can use that to connect to MetaMask. And then that will allow you to use the DApp. And then, of course, why do DApps most of the time want you to connect MetaMask is because they want you to interact with it by spending Ether. And so, but just by creating an address doesn't give you Ether, of course. I wish it did. But you need to then add Ether to your account, and then you're in the whole quagmire of, well, how do you buy Ether? And you've got to buy Ether or have a friend send you Ether. Now, the thing is, once you've got an Ethereum account, and you just want somebody to send you Ether, like, you know, you just want to start off, like I did, right? I couldn't buy Bitcoin. At least I found it very difficult to buy it. Well, it's actually impossible. I just couldn't buy it, just denied everywhere. But then I thought, well, why don't I just have someone send it to me? Because sending Bitcoin or Ethereum or any crypto to an address is very, very easy. You just give them your address, and and you know, if you give it to somebody who's already got Ethereum, they go, yeah, no problem, you know, just give me the cash when you see me next, or whatever, you know, like first time, you know. I think the conclusion really is that in my opinion, the user experience has a long way to go to help people to be onboarded easily with these platforms, and there's work being done in that space as well. Actually, I believe. I think there's sort of like the ability to automatically go through the flow of creating an account, and maybe even adding a little bit of Ethereum to it, just to get somebody started. You know, it's a bit like that, right? It's just, you know, so rather than having to go through the process yourself, it says, would you like an Ethereum account? Yes, click. You know, and then it's like, here's your Ethereum account. But of course, it's been generated by a third party, so I wouldn't trust it.
I see.
You don't know if they have, you know, they should give you the private key as well. But how do you know they didn't keep it?
Yeah.
So you gotta be really careful with that kind of thing. But there's work being done.
Okay. So you will mention a lot about the DeFi. Yeah. I don't know if we have much time in this, but I would be more interesting if we will have another session who talks about the DeFi and how it's called, and but for now, do you think will DeFi, like for those who are non-technical, just businessmen or accountant people, will all these people, non-technical people, benefit from the DeFi if they're going to be like participate?
Yeah, I believe so. I think that DeFi is one of those areas which, or let's say finance is one of those areas which is ripe for being transformed and shaken up. And decentralized finance is, I think, beginning, if not very much already, showing that it's really happening. It's gaining massive amount of traction. I mean, Uniswap has just gone through the roof with its the amount of liquidity that's staked in Uniswap pools right now. The amount of transactions per day that it's processing is just phenomenal. It's just gone massively spiked, and I mean, I think that of course at the moment it's maybe mostly speculators and seasoned traders, but the thing that DeFi gives everyone is the ability to manage their own finances. And I think that's the most important thing, because right now, if you want to, let's say, invest your money for the long term, let's say you want to put money away for retirement or for your daughter's university fees or whatever, right?
Yep.
Right now what you do is you go to a company, I won't name names, but you go to some company that will then say, yeah, here's a policy, just give me $500 a month or whatever, right? And I will look after your money, and I will invest your money for you in these different portfolios, and don't worry, trust me, it's going to be fine. 10 years later, he turns around and said, oh, those portfolios crashed and your daughter's not going to university. Right? The alternative is decentralized finance, where you yourself manage those, your investments, right? Now, of course, you can do that now, right, with traditional finance, but it's the barrier to entry is much higher, right? I mean, you need to have a brokerage account and all this kind of stuff, right? But with DeFi, you just need an Ethereum address and some Ether.
That's pretty easy, like straightforward, like.
And then of course, you know, it's really up to you, right? So if the portfolio crashes, or if you lose all your money, or you lose your private key, which, you know, would be horrible, then you've lost your money. But that's only you are to blame for that. You can't go to another company and blame the broker or blame somebody else. It's down to you. So there is that give and take. And of course, some people will be still wanting to be having somebody else manage their finances. Of course, right? They don't want to deal with the trading and the technology and the hassle and everything. But these traditional companies now will probably start to offer DeFi products as well in the near future.
I see.
You know what I mean? They'll say, do you want to use this portfolio, which is basically bricks and mortar companies and stocks and shares and bonds, or are you comfortable to go into this DeFi space, but I'll manage this as well for you, right?
I see.
So it gives people more choice and more flexibility and more freedom.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming today. I think we are running out of time,
Thank
but we will see you like next week, right?
Oh yeah. I promise.
It's
a deal.
Deal. And we'll talk. Let's see. Maybe we will change the top. Still in blockchain. Maybe we'll talk specifically in technical or specifically in DeFi. We'll see. Yeah. I will inform you.
Let me know ahead of time, and but any of those two is fine with me.
Last, any words you wanna?
No. I mean, I just want to thank everyone for your questions, and if you're finding it tough, then stick with it, because it can be a bit daunting. But you know, I think it's worth the effort. Once you get to the other end, and when things click, it's a very nice feeling when you understand how blockchain works and the power and the potential of it. It really gets quite exciting, and then you can just really fly. You know? So stick with it. And good luck everyone. I'll see you next week.
I just want to announce, like, there's two ways. If for now, if you're watching this show, there's two ways to get started with the blockchain space. If you wanna be your own and start it, I think I recommend to go to your channel, the Dev Bootstrap. You talk like with different technology, web technology also included, and also the Ethereum. How you can start in, like, deploy your own contract, and then I've been exploring. But if you want to come like hand on also in small world in KOOMPI, we also have open for the apprenticeship. They can welcome to join our team members and learn together on building this kind of technology. So once again, we'll see you next week. Thank you everyone for watching today. Gonna see you next week.
Thank you.
Thế vì chi ni ri mọcពីឋានសួគ៌ប្រប្រងក្រមេឃីគ្រប់គ្នាចង់បានស្ដីតែពីសេមានម្ចាស់ទៅហើយទេវីល្អគ្មានពីរល្អណាស់លោកអើយស្ដាយអូនមានម្ចាស់ទៅហើយគ្មានសងខំឡើយជួបការក្រអូបតែក្នុងរបប